Imagine that you're having a child. When parents are expecting, they wish for their children to be healthy and live fulfilling lives. No one wants a child to endure ostracism, constant pain, or a life reliant on medications. With numerous genetic disorders affecting individual functioning, it is crucial to identify any abnormalities in a baby in order to plan for a future after pregnancy. Hey there, I'm Esther, and this presentation will outline the genetic principles surrounding CVS, how it works, its importance, advantages and disadvantages, practical applications, ethical issues involved, and its possible future developments. So let's get started.
Chorionic fetus sampling is a prenatal test that permits early detection of genetic abnormalities in a fetus.
Sure is a lot of fancy words, but what does that mean? How does it do that? Before we go into depth about CVS, let's cover some basic genetic concepts to make sure we have an understanding of the topics at hand. Genetics primarily deals with heredity, basically how characteristics are passed from parents to offspring via genes. Genes are segments of DNA that instruct how to make particular proteins needed for a cell structure, function, and regulation. They're found on very long thread-like structures called chromosomes within the nucleus of a given cell. In a typical body cell, humans have 46 chromosomes, or 2 sets of 23, one set from each parent, with each chromosome having hundreds to thousands of genes. Keep in mind that each gene has more than one common form, known as alleles. To put this in perspective, while a gene may code for a trait like eye color, alleles are what determine what type of eye color there will be. Ideally, every individual receives one allele from their parents for any given gene. However, sometimes mutations or deletions in genes cause errors in passing down those alleles called chromosomal abnormalities. A mutation is a change in the genetic code of a gene which can occur due to damage or be inherited, while deletion is when a part of a chromosome is lost or deleted. Such errors may be caused by environmental influences, random mutations in chromosomal structure, maternal age, family history, or cell division errors, called non-disjunction, when parents give more or fewer chromosomes than required to their child. Two such inherited diseases are sickle cell anemia, where the red blood cells of the individual acquire abnormal shapes, and Tay-Sachs disease, which causes a buildup of toxic fatty acids, causing damage to the nerve cells. Now that the basics are covered, let's dive in! First thing I want to cover is how it works. Being a widely used prenatal test, CVS helps detect genetic abnormalities by analyzing placental tissue samples. This is done between the 11th to 13th week of pregnancy by obtaining a sample tissue from the placenta of the developing fetus and sending it to a laboratory for testing. The procedure goes like this. First, an ultrasound is done to assess the fetus's ability to survive outside the uterus and to find its general position and orientation. Secondly, the abdomen is cleaned with an antiseptic solution, and then a fine needle or catheter is used to extract a tissue sample from the placenta. Then finally, the cells go to a lab for analysis. Next, I'm going to be talking about the significance CVS has in the field of genetics. It is significant because it's mostly safe, diagnoses genetic defects accurately, and chromosomal abnormalities considerably earlier than other prenatal tests, and boasts several psychological and medical advantages. Let's talk about a few benefits of CVS. First of all, tests can be conducted very early on into the gestation period of a fetus, typically between 11 to 13 weeks of pregnancy, sometimes as early as 8 weeks under specific circumstances. It also boasts a 99% accuracy, which means the tests are reliable. Additionally, CVS is a procedure that can detect over 200 genetic disorders, including anomalies even on a single gene, such as cystic fibrosis and Tay-Sachs disease, making it very versatile. CVS is usually recommended for mothers who have had such cases as Down syndrome, Edwards syndrome, or Pateau syndrome in their family backgrounds. Now, let's talk about some drawbacks to CVS. One disadvantage to CVS is that the risk of miscarriage with this method is about 1%, with even higher percentages if performed before 9 weeks of pregnancy. Additionally, similar to other prenatal tests, there are some small risks of infection and light to heavy vaginal bleeding. It might also lead to the leakage of the amniotic fluid, which is the watery fluids that surround and cushion a developing fetus. In case of leakage, it might be the reason for other pregnancy complications such as stillbirths. With the dangers in mind, one should discuss with their healthcare provider beforehand to see if CVS is right for them. Moving on, let's talk about the importance CVS has in medicine. Did you know that about 300 million people in the world have genetic disorders? That's approximately 3.5 to 5.9% of the entire world's population. The first reason CVS proves a revolutionary tool in the genetic field is that it allows for early pregnancy genetic disorder testing and diagnosis. Before prenatal screening technology such as CVS was available, parents would remain uninformed of defects their children would have until they gave birth to them. Nowadays, CVS boasts a 99% accuracy, and for parents with a history of inherited genetic abnormalities, CVS provides reliable results. Since it is accurate and early, parents can trust the results and have a wide range of options to consider. These include medical counseling, preparation, or decisions regarding the continuation of the pregnancy. The second reason CVS is a fundamental tool in medicine is because it provides psychological and social benefits towards families. Having children is already a life-changing decision, imposing mental and financial burdens on families. Without the test, parents may not know what they're getting into. If a couple is worried about their child being born with a family genetic problem, then this test takes the uncertainty away and provides peace of mind. The ability to test for a range of genetic disorders has transformed prenatal care, making it more proactive and personalized, empowering countless parents by giving them choices and knowledge through early detection. Moving on, let's talk about some ethical considerations. If we wish to continue the responsible use of CVS, several imperative ethical considerations must be sought after, including privacy, consent, responsible use, and considering discrimination. CVS first raises concerns associated with genetic selection and possible cases of eugenics. Due to societal pressures and genetic standards, individuals may abort pregnancies merely because of the genetic conditions presented by their children. While this is a family decision, the societal stigma of portraying people with disabilities as undesirable and unnecessary continues to maintain discriminatory practices that devalue the lives of people with disabilities, and it just sustains ableism. Another important aspect to consider is the privacy and confidentiality of the results derived from CVS. If the data falls into the hands of employers, insurance companies, or governments, unauthorized access and misuse of data may lead to discrimination against people based on their predisposition to certain conditions. Some are even denied opportunities just by the reason of their genetic conditions. Lastly, let's talk about consent. Genetic testing and medical procedures currently are not preceded by a process that ensures patients truly understand the benefits, dangers, limitations, and consequences of any likely findings on account of the result implications. Without knowing this, is their consent truly acceptable? At best, consent is questionable. As CVS is neither completely safe nor indispensable, patients should be informed about alternatives and consider whether CVS is truly right for them. Moving on, let's talk about some future prospects. Genetic testing is rapidly changing, and as technology advances, CVS will experience many potential developments. First of all, with improved genomic technology, CVS may one day test for a much broader range of genetic conditions, including rare genetic disorders, as well as multifactorial diseases like autism, diabetes risk, or spina bifida. Recall that genes are segments of DNA. Multifactorial diseases are difficult to identify since they're caused by the interaction of multiple genes and environmental factors. They don't really follow a clear inheritance pattern throughout generations. However, as molecular techniques and biotechnology gradually advance, DNA strands may become able to be read more efficiently and quickly, possibly providing a more comprehensive understanding of the fetal genome and genetic coding as we know it. Another potential future development is that CVS will be replaced by advanced non-invasive prenatal testing, NIPT, which may reduce the need for invasive procedures like CVS in the first place. Because 1% of all mothers who endure CVS experience miscarriage due to complications, exploring safer alternatives is crucial. By continuing research and furthering effectiveness in the analysis of non-invasive techniques, such as acquiring fetal DNA from the mother, tests can vastly reduce the risk posed to the fetus. As a result, NIPT may cause CVS to become far less common, becoming reserved for cases requiring detailed tissue analysis. To sum up, Chorionic Villi sampling is not just a prenatal test, but proof of how genetic technologies can be transformational in prenatal care. It allows for the early and effective diagnosis of more than 200 genetic disorders, hence allowing parents, especially those with a family history of genetic conditions, to be properly informed in decisions regarding the health of their child. Despite the associated risks of miscarriage and potential implications of ableism, eugenics, and misuse of information, CVS remains a quintessential tool in genetic diagnosis. As precision, more testing options, and non-invasive solutions increase and improve, the future for CVS becomes more and more promising. before we end off, I have 3 interesting questions I would like to ask you, the viewer, just to leave you off on a good note. Number 1, how should society balance the benefits of CVS with associated ethical concerns like genetic selection and ableism? Number 2, what steps would you propose to safeguard sensitive genetic data from possible misuse by employers, insurers, etc.? And finally, number 3, which is my favorite, with the 1% risk of miscarriage through CVS, when do you think that we should recommend CVS for expecting parents? Anyways, that's all for now. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I hope you learned something and you have a great day.